Blend Radio, where we celebrate variety and how it adds spice to quality of life. Okay, so it is Cyber Monday, and apparently it's a good time to buy books. That's what I'm going to say. I think our whole Cyber Monday show is about books and other wonderful side items, everything from novels and mysteries to genealogy. And that's what brings us to Erin Youngless. Erin is on our Big Blend radio shows all the time, talking about history or about books because she's also a writer. And so you can go to her website, genealogybyErin.com. That's ARYN. Welcome back, Erin. How are you?
I'm well. How are you, Lisa?
Doing good. It's a good time of year to really think about family history while we are with our families, right?
It is. This is a great time of year to interview people because you're in
Mm.
the same room.
Yeah. And what I noticed on your site with a lot of the books that you have, which are on Amazon and everything, but people just go to her website first. You've got an Etsy store too, is that you've done a lot of books and products like on your Etsy store where it's a like leading people on how to do interviews and do the journaling and things like that, right? So it gives people a guide of what to, do with
Yes,
their families right now.
absolutely. Absolutely. And it's great because they're keepsakes. So you can
Mm,
buy them for family members and then have that,
mm,
when people pass on, which, that's part of our family history. But it's also great for you because a lot of
mm.
times with family history, we just automatically look at our parents, grandparents, and on, but we're part of our family history too. So having a journal to write down your memories and where you lived and who your best friend were when you were growing
Mm.
up is just a really wonderful keepsake to add to your family
Oh,
history.
very cool. And that's the thing. And having these conversations now with family, especially the elders in our family, is so important. And we have technology too. Do you recommend that people use technology like phones, recording audio and things like that too?
Absolutely. Especially this time of year when you have all these holidays and people can get together, using technology, so having your phone recording and then having maybe a camera also recording. It's great to, I mean, obviously people don't have mic systems, or maybe they
Mm,
do. In this day and age, you don't know. You can pick them up at Target. But having a phone near them to tape the audio so that you
mm,
can have two, because sometimes microphones don't pick up. So having both there are just
mm.
it's a just a great resource, and those family stories are a lot of times have hidden gems in them that will help us figure out mysteries in our family tree. And I've
Mm,
seen it a bunch of times. So I recommend, yeah, digital, and I also recommend transcribing. So using
mm.
transcription software, and then you can have a printout copy of everything that was said on top of it.
Nice, nice.
Mhm.
And now we've got ways to store it. We've got Dropbox and things like
Yes,
that too, right?
yes.
So, as a genealogist, can someone like if I said, "Hey, I've got this, aunt that's all into family history. Can I buy a gift certificate from you to help her or do something that she may need help with?" Does that kind of thing work with you? And or
Oh
how does
yeah.
that process happen?
The people can reach out to me and they can buy gift certificates for a certain amount of hours. And
Okay.
I don't have like one gift certificate that's out there, but you can message me or DM me, and I would be happy to figure out and make a gift certificate specifically for them. So I can even write
Okay.
their family member's name on it. And
Oh, nice.
mhm,
Send it. So, do you get a lot of people that are like, "Hey, I got somebody and she's stuck on this," or maybe I want it for myself too, with some
absolutely.
guidance? Do you do any of that? Like any kind of, "Hey, I'm going to go see my family and I don't know where to even start."
Yes, I actually have a free ebook. It's in my link tree on Instagram and on TikTok of just basic questions to ask
Mm,
and what to take with you when you're going to go interview and how you should ask first. Because sometimes people don't want to be, they don't want to be interviewed, and that's fine too. But yeah, people
yeah.
can reach out to me and ask questions on my website. There's a contact sheet, and that comes right to my inbox, so I can go from there. I find
Okay.
that very easy.
Tell everybody what your handles are.
My handle is at Genealogy by Aaron on
Okay.
everything.
Simple. Very easy. And genealogybyaaron.com. That gives everything there. So
Yes,
yeah, so this to me, I think this is such a cool holiday gift, is the gift of family history,
it
you know.
is. And
Even for a family, like an experience. Now, have you ever worked with a family that said, okay, we're doing this as a family, getting like the teens involved and having them do specific projects? Does that ever work? Or is it like a solo thing for someone?
It depends on I've had more than one person in a family come together, different generations that are working on just
Okay.
continuing research where an older person had done genealogy and family history, and now they're kind of like passing the box of family history off, and then having the new person come in, but being able to sit down and speak with the person who had already worked on it, and then helping the younger
Mm.
generation move forward. I think younger people are more interested in their family history than we give them credit for as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's interesting. And a lot of kids do want to know where they came from, and maybe they just want to know if they're related to royalty, but they do want to know about, where they came from and their heritage and where their family originated from, because it wasn't here unless, you're a
Yeah,
First
if
Nation.
you're Native American, yeah,
Yeah.
indigenous, that's the interesting thing too, is like, yeah, who am I? Why do I always like this? Then you've got an ancestor that has some similarities. You want to know,
Yes.
and even for health reasons too, you want to know.
Yes, yes. In my family, doing my research, I've learned a lot of people have heart disease and heart issues, and
Ooh,
it helps me get ahead of it. Very
it's a good thing you
honestly.
you do yoga. You're
Yes.
not allowed. Yeah, having some
Exactly.
yoga health is good to know. Yeah, so it helps you, and I just think it's like such a cool thing for a family to have. It's like, let's dig into our history together as a family project. Everybody gets to know a little bit more about, who, what, and where. And then sometimes there's history you don't want to know, but that's part of it too,
It
you know?
is. And with that, I like to remind people that maybe you'll find an ancestor you don't really like a lot, but the people behind them, like their parents, maybe they were cool. So you shouldn't just stop because you found,
Yeah.
I mean, one person. We're all going to find one person. We're all going to find a secret. There is
That's
a
always
secret,
fun. It's
right?
always interesting. You could end up writing a story about it.
You can. You
Well,
can.
well, I know now you help people turn their family history into memoirs. That's another
It
interesting
is.
thing that people could do as some kind of gifting, or at least do something towards that. People that maybe can't write, or just like, I've got the coolest story, right? So, do you help
Yes.
people with that? Where, okay, you're a writer, so I can write it for you, or do you do that?
I could do ghostwriting, but sometimes I help people sit down with their ideas and then we map it out together. And
Mm.
then it's kind of like coaching. So family history writing coaching.
Cool,
So, but
cool.
just because a lot of times it gets overwhelming
Mm-hmm.
because there are some families that I've worked with where it's just not a secret. It's like generations of secrets. So they want to share these stories because they are very interesting and I
Mm,
think very relatable because we
mm,
come from a past that had lots of, we just don't talk about that, to
mm.
a generation and an age where
We want to know.
DNA and all this access is making all those secrets come out. So they want to
Mm,
talk about their family in more of a way than the analytical footnotes. So
mm,
I do that too, and I recommend that. Always
mm.
cite your work. But yeah,
Yeah.
I do help people with that.
Well, I think, when you're talking about the youth getting involved, they want to know who they are, especially as
Yes.
a certain, as a teen, you're a mom, hey, your kids are going to go like, who am I? How do I relate to, other members of my family, my ancestry, and things like that. And what did they go through? And maybe there's stories in there that help, kids overcome challenges, because it's like,
Yes.
hey, there was another kid in my family who did this. I want to be like them. So there's inspirations that can
Hmm.
come from that. And then maybe by connecting in the past from their ancestry, do you see kids start to kind of want to learn more about history in general?
Yes. Well, I think when you learn about history, for me personally, the more I learn about history through my family history, it's just so much more accessible and real and
Mm,
tangible. Where at school, there's the curriculum that's being handed down and everybody learns the same thing. When you start learning about your ancestor who lived on a coal patch in West Virginia and they worked for a mine and what was that like? And then they were part of the
oh,
strikes, or even coming over in the with the pilgrims back in the day, or maybe my husband's ancestor, he was part Wyandotte Indian. So that culture, I actually just posted something about one of their
Mm,
members. They were very inclusive. So if one of the Native Americans married a white person, they just all came into the family. So, but
okay.
then they still had to deal with the separation because now they're part of the
Mm,
Native American community. But being able to see like, oh, it's not just the Cherokee lived here, it's my family was part of that and they had those same
mm,
struggles, makes it very real. And it
mm.
also gives you a sense of like global identity where you're not just in this tiny community in wherever
Yeah.
America, it helps you reach out because a lot of these families, start with my one friend, her family came from Eastern Europe to Ohio, and then part of that family broke off and came out here to California. And so seeing this growth,
Mm.
and now you're not just this person who lives in a tiny town in Ohio,
Yeah,
but
just because my parents went there doesn't, yeah,
it,
it's like it may be hometown, but it's not like your family hometown.
exactly. So now you
Mm.
have like cousins on the West Coast and cousins in Europe and it cousins in Canada. It makes you appreciate the better global community that we are all part of.
And then you end up traveling there at times. I mean, that's a huge thing too.
It
So
is.
genealogy is also connected to travel, and a lot of people travel to find their roots, which I
Yes.
think is cool. That's where it's great as if the family, and I know a lot of people, a lot of travel writers are doing this now. They're mapping their story and they do their travels, and a good portion, if not 50 to 70 to 80% of their trip, they're supposed to write about this cruise, but they're like, I'm cruising, but this is why I'm doing this. And then
Mhm.
they're like, wow, wait, I had a great uncle who actually sailed these seas fishing. And I'm like, how the heck did they do that? Here I am on this luxury cruise. That wasn't what he went through. So it's
Yeah.
kind of, I've done so many interviews with people that have traveled the world to have those connections. And I don't know, it's kind of it talk about peace on earth, right? Maybe
Right?
that
Yeah.
helps.
Well, actually a great example of that is Glenn, who comes on your
Yeah.
show, Glenn Burrows. And when you're doing your family history and looking at military research in the United States, if you're looking World War I, World War II, Korea, there's a chance the
Mm.
records aren't there because of the fire from 1973. But say your ancestor was stationed in England up in Norfolk, he would have records about that.
Oh.
So taking that travel so you can experience what your grandparents or your uncles and
Hmm.
aunts had by going to the locations and where they were stationed. That's
He ended up
also,
in Canada and
yeah,
meeting this whole family that he didn't know he had, but he
yeah.
went down a rabbit hole and then, like, what? And he's gone to Canada twice to meet his relatives, hang out with them, and then went to one of his ancestors that fought in the War of 1812, I think it was. And he went there and stood where the guy sailed there, fought, came back home. I think did it twice or something. I'm going to mess it up. It's Glenn's story. But anyway,
But yeah,
he
but that's a
got
great
to go where he
example.
was,
It is.
That's
It
amazing.
and that's another great reason for the journals that I made. I have one that's
Mm,
specifically for writing down everything so you could take it with you when you go on one of those trips and not have to worry about little slips of paper because it's all in one place that you get to
okay,
bring home. And then you have this great like research log that you've basically compiled.
cool.
Yeah.
That's, I know people in wineries that do that, you know, like just a winery. I know it sounds nuts, but
No,
when
nothing
we
sounds
first
nuts.
started podcasting, I mean, a long time ago, we had the Ruffino family from Italy. It's like well-known winery. We get it here in our grocery stores, Ruffino wine.
Mhm.
And he came on our podcast, and I'm like, oh, we're global now. Because at that point, we were going from being Southwest to California, Southwestern to like, why not? We can talk to anyone in the world. And so we were asking him question is winery is over 150 years old.
That's
They
crazy.
have a log every single day. Someone writes what the weather was doing, and he could see weather cycles, what was going on in history at that time. 150-year-old journals from his
That's
winery. Like, if it's
amazing.
105 or 150, and at this point, I don't care. That's just good enough.
Yeah,
But I mean, that journal, and I was just like, wait a minute, who cares about the wine? It's fabulous. But that is amazing to have these,
it is.
like, I want to go and read it.
It is. Well, I mean, you could do the same thing with your family because it does help. And when you're working on your family history, it's not just birth, marriage, and death. You want to know, like, what was the weather like? Because I've seen how these horrible winter storms directly affect somebody whose job was to be outside all the time. Well, now you can't be. I was a house painter, but I can't be a house painter in December in Michigan. So then
Yeah,
seeing
no.
where your ancestor, how they made it through in the new job careers, and but that is great. And if you're able to have that information, I mean, I
Mm,
would love to have a 100-year journal from my family. That would be
me
incredible.
too. That'd
Yeah.
be scandalous. That
Yes.
a little scandalous, but also is there because these journals people are actually handwriting, is that bring a closer connection to your family by just that kind of activity?
Oh, I think so. There's
Mm,
something very special about finding an old document with your ancestor's signature on it.
mm.
I think it's just the most amazing thing to see what their handwriting is. And that's another weird thing. I've seen ancestors' handwriting. It looks like my handwriting.
Oh, that's freaky.
It is. It's super freaky. And it's just like, I never would have thought that's something that's handed down. But also, as you said, I have a uncle that I didn't know a lot about. I found out was really into music. And when I was a kid, I was really into music, like playing instruments.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
like
no,
you
yeah. You had a
see that.
band. I
Yeah.
remember.
Yeah. 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 Back in the day. But yeah, it's just I love little things like that. And um just finding that, I don't know, it's just really interesting and heartwarming when you see somebody in your tree that you've never met who has things in common with you.
Yeah.
It's a great way to not feel alone.
You can't put a price tag on that.
No,
You know,
no.
it's like, wow, that's kind of trippy, man. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's bigger than me. Like that's big.
it
You
is.
know,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
universal and it's humbling, but then also makes the world feel smaller at the same time. It's wild.
Hmm.
So there's two journals, right, that people can get?
Four.
Four.
Four. Yeah,
Oh, wow.
I have a mom and a dad
Oh,
journal. And then I have this is the big one. It's a genealogy journal. And it
oh,
actually has questions. It has parts for pedigree chart, recipes,
we have a
all sorts.
pedigree chart.
Yeah, a pedigree chart for you can write down. See if I can.
What my breed is? Like,
Not
how did you wag your tail? Best in show is coming back.
well, just the your
Oh,
family. So
okay.
writing down people's
Okay.
name, the basic name, states, and birth records, marriage. And then I have one for kids.
Oh, that's so cool. I
Yeah, so
love
it's
it.
a fun activity you can do with your kids or your grandkids. And
Cool.
yeah, so
Very
that way
cool.
they're being included in it. And
Now tell us about the Etsy side because I saw all kinds of things on there. Like, what's going on? This is something you
Etsy,
do with your son, right?
it is. The Etsy site is has a lot of genealogy. There's some non-genealogy stuff on it. It's I do the books with my son too. I actually have some other books
Oh,
that
cool.
aren't genealogy based, but it has the basic starter kit on getting documents and like research logs and the basic pedigree tree that you can fill in. It's all digital and there is you can print it out, but I also have it as a PDF form,
Oh, okay.
but fillable PDF. But there's also recipes and there's two different kid bundles for different activities. That's great for homeschooling if you like to
Oh,
have your
cool.
family history with that, but it's also just fun. But then we also have like a paranormal download that you can do so you can go to cemeteries and hunt for ghosts and set a
Oh, that
couple.
is cool. Now
It
I'm into
is.
that. I'm in. I'm in.
I also have a journal for that. I just don't have it in front of me. I'll have to send you one.
I want to check that out. I'm so into the paranormal side. When you go to graveyards, are you looking for ghosts? Are you talking to people in there? Like what? I want to know. Like,
For me personally, it depends on
hmm,
the day. Some cemeteries I go to just because, well, out here in LA, we have some really old iconic cemeteries. We have one that the name just went out of my brain, but it was a garden cemetery, which was very common during Victorian era time.
yeah.
So it was set up as like this beautiful park. And when you would come to town, the first thing you would do was go to the cemetery. And people would stroll there and picnic there, and you could visit your relatives and before going to the living relative's home. So I love going and looking at those old graves
Oh,
and all the so I don't know, it's crazy because the place is not in the best condition nowadays, but it's still gorgeous. And sometimes I just like going to see who who's buried there because it tells
and
you a
what's
lot
written?
about it
Yeah.
what?
what's written on their tombs.
what's written on their tombs, and there's so many like the tree stone the stones that look like tree
Mhm.
stumps, or
Yeah.
if you have different like the Masons or
Oh
the
yeah,
Odd
all their
Fellows,
symbols and
yeah,
all
the
of that.
different symbols and what
The
they
bones,
mean. And
skulls and crossbones, or is it the other way around? Bones and
um
skull.
skulls
Well,
and
that's
crossbones, that's old, that's like pre
yeah.
pre 1800s, but those
That's a
are
whole interesting thing. That, but it is connected to the Masons, right?
so yeah, the Masons usually have their own area, and I'm trying to, there's another big lodge out here that I can't like
There's the one is cool. The one of the best graveyard. Well, there's some excellent one, like Pennsylvania, Easton, Pennsylvania, has one of the best graveyards. I mean, everyone's everywhere. There's like the father of American bandstand music is buried there,
oh
famous
wow.
actresses, and it's just a lot of because back east the history is like insane, right?
Yes.
But I've gone to a lot of there's Native American cemeteries like in Nevada. There's like different ones. There's Holocaust cemeteries. Like we've
Hmm.
got that. In Louisiana, I had no clue that would happen, but it's true.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting. But Little Rock, Arkansas, Mount Holly, they had it just didn't matter. It was a free for all. Everybody went like it didn't matter if you're a Mason or whatever. It's whatever was the next plot, in you go. So they literally had politicians and prostitutes lying next to each other, which was so appropriate.
That's that's amazing. I didn't know about that one.
It is. I wanted to, that was just it. There was no rich side, poor side. It
That's
was just everyone is just wherever they got laid to
that's very
rest.
cool. That's very
Hmm.
interesting. Yeah.
So that was fun. I mean, I just love the fact that prostitutes and politicians are like still hanging out.
Yes.
Sorry,
No, no,
God,
no.
I
You're
had to
right. It
go
feels
there.
right.
But come on, it's funny. But that I love that you have a journal for this. So,
Yes,
ooh, that's cool. Yeah.
it is.
So you can talk to like, hey, are you there? I know people do that with apps on their phones.
They do. I have with my son. He'll come
Hmm.
with me as I'm looking around, and he'll walk around with his apps. And we've had weird things happen at different
Because it's
cemeteries.
sound waves, right? So it's working on sound waves and
Hmm.
energy.
Yes.
So it could be anything. It could be
It
like somebody else was buried there that none of us knew about.
Yes. Well, that happens. My great grandmother and her oldest son, so my great uncle or great great uncle, are buried in unmarked graves. So you could be at a cemetery and think you're not
Mm.
standing on a grave. It's just they couldn't afford a tombstone.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's
Hmm.
freaky, isn't it?
It is. It is.
And a lot of in Louisiana, they put them on top, like they're buried above ground for a
They
good
are.
reason. Otherwise, they'll sink.
Hmm.
Oh,
Yeah.
man, crazy, crazy. So genealogybyaaron.com is where people can get all of these cool things that you've got journals, and I want the ghost one.
Yes.
The
I will have
graveyard's
to.
ghost. I want to see
I
that. That's
I will
cool.
have to send you one. Yes.
I know. So we go across the country. I'll be calling Aaron, come on. I found a ghost. I found a ghost. Yeah. Well, that happens too.
And then we'll have to
So
look up their family history and then find out what the story is.
find out who they are. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. We've done a lot of ghost walks and in cemeteries. It's pretty cool. I kind of just like going because I feel like you feel without the stuff on your phone, you kind of just feel it. I don't
Hmm.
know how to explain that. I
I've
just,
been to some where I
you
feel it, and I've
know,
been to other ones where I'm like, okay. But
maybe you're
yeah,
sleeping, you
maybe.
know.
And New Orleans was freaky. So was
Mm.
Gettysburg.
Gettysburg got me
Yeah.
bad. That I really literally had to sit down in
There's a
Gettysburg.
lot of
That was overwhelming when we went to Gettysburg. Really, really overwhelming for us. Like we both just were like, okay. So we went to their little picnic site in nature and watched woodpecker and cardinal birds and just said, we had to breathe. It was just so heavy there.
have
And
you
then
been to
all the
Danvers?
unmarked graves were like, was sad, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Have you been to
Mm.
Danvers, Michigan, Massachusetts, outside of Salem?
Mm-mm. No.
Is crazy because Danvers is actually where the Salem witch trials actually started. Because Salem and then Salem Village, and Danvers is where Salem Village was. So you have all of that
Oh,
craziness. But the Revolutionary War was also
see, that's
there.
crazy too.
Yeah, so you have these encampments on top of, yeah, but the energy there was weird. Like you would feel, well, Savannah was like that too. You'd walk off the road in Savannah and there you watch cars, but you couldn't hear them anymore. And it was like these weird pockets of quiet. And it was a little unnerving, but it's such
Savannah,
interesting
yeah, we were
history.
just there. We were just in Savannah.
I love
Uh,
Savannah.
Yeah, yeah, it's trippy. It's got so much history and so much going on and so much art too, you know. There's
Hmm.
just so much going on, but um Asheville, North Carolina is trippy. Now, the Gray Line is a trolley tour that they take you around. There's a ghosts and history, mystery kind of tour you take, especially in October.
Hmm.
But like it's where Zelda Fitzgerald died. So you go past where she was in a sanatorium
Hmm.
and died in the fire there. And apparently you can smell her burnt hair at some nights. But at our friend's place, the Lion and Rose Bed and Breakfast, behind them is the Riverside Cemetery, and it's where Thomas Wolfe was buried. O. Henry is buried, and all of that. And so there's this whole thing about the angels that because Thomas Wolfe's family, his dad was had a mortuary, and when there's a vacancy or something, you'd put this angel out in the window.
Oh, wow.
That is crazy. There's like so
Yeah.
many stories. And then in Asheville, the one street you go on, which is Church Street, it's kind of like, I'm going to say it's a brick street. I think it is, or maybe it is Brick Street. I don't know, but it's kind of, you're going like up and down a little bit. And there's a bunch of churches for sure. One of the churches has a nun buried in the front of it because she got pregnant by the priest, and the priest got mad that she got pregnant and pushed her in, and there you went. Bye bye.
Oh, wow.
And there's a bunch of people under the streets that are died, and I think it was yellow fever, going to get something wrong, and so they didn't know what to do with the bodies, so they buried them and then put a street on top.
That that tracks for yellow fever.
Crazy.
Yeah, that's very crazy. That is
That's a
crazy.
crazy. No, you got to go. You got to go to Asheville.
I
That
I do.
history.
I need to take a deep dive for sure. That's very
I
cool.
know, because Asheville, I was just like, dude, this is cool. I mean, it's not cool about the people dying, but like the
Yes.
history is, um, I'm into it, man. It's like 20,000 rabbit holes of so, and also a lot of Cherokee history. And there's certain tribal things, and there was one leader that if he said something, it really would happen. Like
Oh,
there's,
wow.
it's cool. You got to go.
I do. I do.
All right. Well, next time I see you, we're gonna go in a
Yeah.
graveyard. Screw the Zoom thing. Let's go graveyard hopping. All
Yes.
right.
I'm
All
in.
right. Well, everyone, happy holidays. Hope you get to a graveyard near you. Go to genealogybyaaron.com. The link is in the episode notes. Thanks so much and happy holidays, Aaron.
Happy holidays. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to Big Blend Radio. Keep up with our shows at bigblendradio.com.